First of all, hi and welcome. My name
Hey.
is Hallgeir. This is my friend Tim.
Hello.
Hallgeir and Tim. Nice to meet you.
Your name, to the people for some odd reason not knowing, is Jim.
Yes, my name's Jim Butcher.
First of all, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. And first question, in according to that, why did you say yes to this? We are two guys in a basement in Norway.
Why not? Yes, and it was at a non-inconvenient time. So, like many things, it wasn't going to cost me anything, and it might be fun, and it wasn't too inconvenient. So, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Well,
good.
thank you so much for doing it.
Yeah, thanks.
This is kind of personal for us because this whole interview and stuff like this, it kind of started with us making a LARP trilogy set in the Dresden File universe.
Right.
I think I sent you a link to that a couple of years ago. No, a year and a half ago, I think.
You did. Bunch of pictures of people LARPing.
Yes. And for us, we have been living in your world intensely for 3 years now.
Yeah.
Not as long as you though, but
but more intensely than me. I mean, for me, I'm just going to work.
Yeah.
So
But
it's a very different thing. It's a very different thing when there's no passion like the passion you have for something that you have fun with.
But I'm guessing you also kind of like your work in some regards.
I do, but it's my job, so I have to have a certain amount of professionalism with it. And some days I don't want to be there because I would much rather be doing other things. There's good television or other books I can be reading or something like that. And it's like, I don't want to go to work today, but it's my job, so I go to work today. That's another reason probably I said yes, because part of my job is also just sitting down and having chats with people when they invite me to, because they seem to like that, and my editor tells me that's part of the job now. So,
Well, how do you your work hours? You're like 9 to 5 writing, and then the rest of the day off, or?
No, it's more like about 10 p.m. to maybe 6 or 7 a.m. writing.
Yeah.
That's when I get all my work done, is at night, because there's nobody calling me, and there's nobody, nobody's delivering mail or showing up at my house or trying to sell me something.
Okay.
It's like I can work and no one will interrupt me, and I won't have to murder anyone that way, and that's good.
Yeah, how do you balance like family time, friend time, and work time? Is it hard? Do you lock yourself in a room only during night, or like when you have a deadline? How do you do that?
It's usually not too bad, except when I'm getting close to a deadline and there's not as much done as there needs to be done. At which point, then I kind of get pretty hermity. I get a little bit hermity whenever I've got a new novel underway that I'm working hard on. But usually I'm only hermity during part of the week, and the rest of the time I'll go out and do stuff and so on. When my kid was growing up, I would still I would make sure that I would still get out to LARPs and stuff like that as often as I could, especially when he was younger and he couldn't drive himself a couple hundred miles away for a LARP. I would, I got to get everything done this week so that we can go to the LARP this weekend, and that means I got to get costumes and weapons and everything like that, and the special effect stuff for the magic, and so there was a lot of that to get done, and but that's 90% of the fun of the LARP anyway, is getting ready for the LARP.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Anybody who doesn't get that is not LARPed enough, So,
how did you start LARPing?
In college, my freshman year of college, there was people outside practicing with Nerf weapons for a LARP called the International Fantasy Gaming Society, and so I decided I wanted to go fight with Nerf weapons because I like swords. It was pretty much that simple, and then so I started my first I played my first character who was a backstab rogue, and then I started making all kinds of other characters, and by at some point I think I spent, of the 52 weekends in the year, I think one year I managed to spend about 38 of them LARPing.
Sounds very familiar.
Yeah, right. And so that we and I was having all kinds of fun by that point, because I'd be LARPing in. I was going to school in Oklahoma. I was going up to Colorado to LARP. I was going down to Texas to LARP. I was going around to different parts of Oklahoma to LARP. We got to play in it. We got to play at one point in a castle, which was neat. Even though it was only open during the day, so you couldn't play there at night. It's like, I mean, you can't play at a castle at night, man. That's such a ripoff.
Oh, have you seen?
You can't do a proper dungeon crawl with all this sunlight. It just doesn't work.
Have you seen all the LARPs they do in Poland now?
Yeah.
Poland and Czech. Yeah.
I've been looking at lots of different pictures online.
Yeah.
And I'm impressed with Europe. You guys are getting pretty hardcore with your LARPing at times. Plus, I went to Sweden for a signing this summer.
Yeah.
And we were running around Stockholm and actually staying at a hotel in the old town, and we saw like 3 separate groups of LARPers just running through the streets doing their LARP, because they've got a city that's basically a medieval city. It very much had that Warhammery kind of feel to it. And so we saw 3 different groups of LARPers, and 2 of them were groups of girls who were going about on some mission for the court, and then there were some guys who were officiating a duel with LARP swords. And it's like, why do I live in America where only nerds do it, and we have to run away and do it in the forest on the weekends? My dog needs outside, and I dare not ignore him. Hang on.
Du kan godt spørre om type live og sånt. Ja.
Okay, there we go.
So you only do, have you only done like buffer LARPs, fighting?
By and large, I've done some roleplay LARPs, but I like beating people up.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I mean, that's really what I kind of live for. These days, my son does much of the beating people up with swords. For a while there, he was in that phase of being 16 to 21 or so, and guys those age, they're very into the sword fighting, because they've like got the perfect build for it, and everything still works properly, and their reflexes are all awesome and everything. So, it got to the point where I could no longer defeat my son fairly in a sword fight. So I had to start cheating on him left and right.
Yeah.
And even now, he'll acknowledge, okay, Dad, I just don't want to fight you when we're out LARPing, and when one of us is NPCing, because it's just no fun. We fight exactly the same, and I lose a leg, you lose a leg, I lose an arm, you lose an arm. That's how it works. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It is kind of how it works.
Have you ever made a LARP?
No, I haven't made my own. I've been much more of a I totally would have when I was younger. I was part of like the rules committee for IFGS and rewrote a bunch of the rules and so on. And I very much got into the administrative side of running it. And then after that, my ex-wife got a job elsewhere, and so we had to move about the country for a while, and there was no LARPing for a good long time. And when it wasn't until my son came of age and he'd grown up on LARP stories, because that's the other 90% of fun with LARPs is telling stories about the things that happened. Yeah. So although I've done a lot of Boffer LARPs, but I've never done the just pure Boffer LARPs. It's always been Boffer quest type stuff.
Yeah.
So you got to have a character that you can make a costume for and make an appropriate thematic weapon for, and plan good things to go do.
Yeah, I've never been to like a buffer type LARP, because I've been raised on LARPs here in Norway, and we do all kinds of different things. Do you know if there has been like many Dresden Files LARPs in the US?
Well, there's the folks who put out the Dresden Files role-playing game are now putting out Dresden Files Live, which is
Yeah.
for it to be a LARP. It's meant to be a LARP. And I don't know. I don't know if there's an organization that's running it yet or not. I know that there are several organizations that have run Dresden Files events at conventions and so on. I was at one of those events at a convention where they wrote their own story in the Dresden Files, in the Dresden Files world, and had it all set up. And it was basically the farm team of the now my head is falling apart. The Nickelheads, the Denarians, the farm team of the Denarians versus the farm team for the Knights of the Cross, and there was a holy order devoted to the 7 virtues, and then there was, of course, an order devoted to the 7 sins. And there was a big LARP that was centered around that, and that was fun. And they're like, Jim, come play. And I'm like, I don't know if I can really come play. And they're like, why? And it's like, well, because I'm like this power gaming jerk. And it doesn't seem fair for me to be a power gaming jerk in the world that I created, because how can you really effectively GM me? No, it is that way, and if necessary, I'll change it and make it that way in the next book if I have to. And yet, if I'm the game staff running the game, then it's too much like work.
Yeah.
So I didn't think I'd be able to participate, but they finally begged me into it. I'm like, okay, but you can't make me anybody important. I have to be like red shirt number 3. And they're like, no, okay, that's fine, red shirt number 3.
So everybody went for you then?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Basically, but I had read the rules and looked up the abilities they'd set up, and I figured out how to cheese the rules horribly. So basically, you only went after me if you wanted to look dumb, but it became kind of a thing in the game, and then somebody else managed to counter cheese me, and I lost horribly. Counter cheese.
It's a good word.
Thank you.
But what's your favorite character from a LARP then?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I tend to play characters who are misfits. So like currently, the character I've been playing most lately is a guy named Keeper from a family of grotesquely powerful and Machiavellian necromancers. Only he just wants to help people. So he doesn't fit into his family at all. So he's Keeper, the reluctant necromancer. And in my first game, I got to walk in, and the NPC playing my mom was there, and she was this 19-year-old girl because she'd been a vampire for a long time, and I'm rolling in as a 40-ish guy, and she's like, "Oh, Keeper, you're still eating food. I see. You're not even undead. I think we might have some old beetle bread in a cabinet somewhere. I'll see if I can find you something to eat. Your little sister, your baby sister, just made Death Knight. And what have you done?" "Mom, I was helping out with this plague. I was healing some people." "Well, plagues are good. I was healing people." "Healing people? Why were you healing people?"
Rebel.
"Mom, you keep doing everything backwards." I'm like, "Mom, it's not backwards necromancy. It's medicine, okay?"
Like the white sheep of the family.
Yeah, exactly. The white sheep of the family. And but they eventually decided to find a use for me because they needed a good PR agent to fit in with the campaign. So I was the one that was supposed to make them look like awesome people, and I had to be like, "No, you don't understand. This is my mother. You can't trust her." "Oh, everybody's got issues with their mother." "No, you really don't get it. She'll kill you."
Really evil.
Yeah. Yeah, you know my name. They're like, "Your name's Keeper." It's like, no, that's what it's been shortened to. My name is actually Keeps Throwing Up, because that's the way it was in my family. My mom once locked me in a coffin with 200 pounds of animated meat that she'd animated to help me get over it. But yeah, so I got to have all kinds of fun with that, and that's a fun character to play.
Yeah.
So you actually get time to LARP at the moment, or sometimes?
The last time I got out to game, unfortunately, was last fall. So I haven't been out. I haven't got to hit somebody with foam for last fall, and that's probably why I'm feeling so stressed right now. There is no stress reliever like going onto a battlefield and wailing on people, and being able to scream things and swing weapons at them, and I love playing fightery types a lot of times. But like I said, since my son has got older, I kind of let him take over all the swashbuckling. And I would just be the character who would stand in the background going, oh dear, and then running over and healing him when he got hit with paralysis poison. Here, I will fix the paralysis poison, go. And go forth and destroy everything, my son. I've treated you well, yes.
Guess I know what our next project is.
What kind of Dresden Files creature would you love to see in a LARP then?
My tastes are simple. White court vampires would be fine. Although the LARP with the various knights worked out really well, because that was a non-combat LARP, and all the combat got done by pulling cards in that one, and so there was a whole lot of smack talk that would basically lead up to the card pulling, because that was the fun part, was getting each other's face and so on.
Yeah.
And so we had various flavors of too much holiness around, and I as playing just kind of regular old Joe number 7, kind of wound up being the guy who was actually doing the Knight of the Cross advice to people, which was a lot of fun. And I had to call everybody in at one point, and I say, I think that everybody here has forgotten that it's not our duty to it's not just our duty to fight these people. It's our duty to save these people. They need our help more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, ooh, and it changed the entire thing after that, and that was neat. Let me see. I would love to just see some of the folks who really get into the makeup and the special effects, because there's several LARPs that are like that. I would love to see them do the Denarians in their various demonic forms. As far as they could do them. The Denarians are all more or less human-ish looking. And I'm not saying I wrote it that way so that people could LARP it like that, but probably in my head somewhere I was thinking, if we were going to put these NPCs in a LARP, probably in the back of my head there was some amount of that going on.
Yeah, we tried to stay away from basically your main characters from the books, since we kind of viewed it like that's your books and we're just visiting in your universe, kind of. So we introduced our own characters, like Vali, the son of Odin, and
obscure son.
Yeah, but you seemed quite versed in like Norse mythology and stuff. Do you plan to expand more on that or introduce other mythologies?
We'll get into that a bit more as the as the books go on. We hit on Hades a little bit in Skin Game and looked at some of the Greeks. But yeah, as we go, we'll get a little bit more.
Could you introduce Bali? Just a thought.
Well, I'm gonna I can't steal your character. Come on, I have to respect the world that you built.
Yeah.
But I think we'll actually get to see some Jotuns in the next book, which will be nice.
Cool.
And just because I mean, you can imagine the reaction of the Einarjaren.
Yeah.
It's like Jotuns. Oh yes, finally we get to do something significant. They're going to be totally pumped about something like that. And, everybody else is going to be looking at them like they're insane. It's like no, that's the kind of thing those guys would be worked up for.
Yeah.
Big league fighting against the Jotuns.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I have more questions
Yeah.
because I was thinking. Let's see. Yeah, what did you catch from what we sent you about the LARP we did, and how does that like make you feel that some odd people on the other side of the earth just do something because they like what you have done so much?
Oh, fantastic. I mean, the whole point of that, the whole point of doing this is the whole point of writing these stories, and they're written for other nerds.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I'm a serious nerd and I'm writing my stories for other nerds, and the entire point is so that people have fun and have a good time, and they step out of the regular boring world for a while and get to go have something that is that is gonna take them out of it, that is gonna let them apply their imaginations and use their imaginations and kind of create this other place to be in for a while. I think as a storyteller, that's the most significant thing that you do, is you create this other place that people get to go to and look around. And we like to say that we create it ourselves, and people like to say, the storytellers, they create all this stuff. But the fact of the matter is other people create it too as they get there. I mean, you're not reading the story that happens in your head is not the story that is happening in my head. It's somewhere close to it, but you're the one who is providing. You guys are the ones who decide what specifically what Dresden looks like while you're reading the story. You're the ones who decide what all the millions of details of imagining something that a writer doesn't throw in. That's for y'all, and if y'all are having fun doing that, if you're getting that done, as a result of reading my story, then that's fantastic. And if you're going out and making up even more stories and doing it on the weekend, that's also fantastic, because it makes me feel as though I don't have to get the other one out to you like tomorrow. I can work
Don't
on it.
think that you really have to do.
Yeah. Well, I can work on it until it's finished and actually good, and then I can give that to you. And it makes me feel a little bit better. It's like, I'm not getting these stories done as fast as I used to. Well, because they're almost twice as long and so on. But because there's all these other parts of my job I have to do now that aren't actually writing.
I didn't.
But
I don't know if you heard about we talked about the castle LARPs in Poland and that stuff. Warner Brothers actually shut down some of them. I think there was the Harry Potter ones.
Yeah.
Because of they were making money on them and then didn't.
That is so cheap.
Yeah, it's.
Come on, Harry Potter has not generated enough revenue.
Yeah, right. So I think they said they're gonna have 6 more LARPs and then they had to find another setting or something like that.
That is.
Yeah.
Because I would so be there for that.
Yeah, you have 6 more chances, I think.
Yeah.
I could dye the hair black and show
Snape.
up. I am not amused.
I think you should do that.
Oh yeah, Snape.
Yeah, it's possible to buy tickets still for some of the different LARPs they're doing. It looks really awesome.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of friends that's been there, and they have this organization crew that you can say, for instance, okay, I want to try to spawn a demon now in the basement, and they're like, okay, what kind of demon? Because they have many different you can try to summon.
Right.
And they make it happen.
Yeah.
I've got this long involved fan fiction, this Harry Potter fan fiction in my head of the next generation of Harry Potter. If I was writing it, it would be a lot of fun, because I would be writing the central character would basically be the next Dark Lord. The next guy that showed up in the Sorting Hat went Slytherin, like that. He would tell the Sorting Hat, "What, are you crazy? No, I'm not going to Slytherin." And those Sorting Hats like, what? It's like, what? You want me to build my empire surrounded by a bunch of people who are super ambitious and wanting to backstab me? No, thank you. Put me in Hufflepuff. I'm gonna hang out in Hufflepuff, and I'm gonna build up everybody around me and be the leader of Hufflepuff, and that's I want the loyal people around me,
You thought a lot
and
about this.
and then to have the character be like, wait, somebody else wants to take over I can't take over the world if they're taking over the world. Now I have to go fight them, and the sort of and then their Dark Lord would be Harry Potter, who actually turns out to be kind of a decent guy. And that's how I would write that story. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Sounds really fun.
It would be awesome.
Start writing fan fiction.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that would not get me in trouble.
No, not at all.
And get the 50 Shades of Grey deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus.
Oh, I wish.
Yeah, well, actually, in regard to 50 Shades, it's a bad segue. I try to segue. Our friend Nina, she heard the Susan / Dresden sex scene on audiobook when she was walking down, like in the middle of our town, and
Okay.
she found herself blushing more and more, and
Turning
suddenly,
the volume down.
Yeah, turning down the volume, looking at other people. Okay, are people listening to this? And she was wondering, will there be more scenes like this, please?
I don't know. I won't say definitely no. But I mean that was one of those scenes that I've done way too much of my career on a bet from somebody else. And that was somebody had made the statement, you can't possibly write a bonded sex scene and make it plot relevant. And I'm like,
Challenge accepted.
but if there were elements, if all the elements that were part of it were necessary for later in the book. So Susan's a vampire is not really controlling herself, so actually restraining her is kind of an important thing. And as long as there's going to be, especially if there's going to be a child as a result of this action, that's going to be a significant long-term factor for the book. That does make it plot relevant. So that was one of those things I've done way too much in my career like that.
What did you win in this regard? I'm assuming there was stakes.
I mean, it was somebody said you absolutely can't.
Didn't you hear him?
You could, but there's that obstreperous element of my personality that just says, when something like that happens, it's like, no, I can make that happen. It can be done. It's probably that stubborn part of me is probably one of the reasons that I actually managed to break in and get published. I mean, it took me 10 years, and you don't try that for 10 years. You don't come home to family Christmases for 10 years and have people ask you, when are you going to get a real job? If you don't have a significant amount of stubbornness built into you. But
why do you think the books have become so popular as they are?
A combination of things. I like writing. I like writing my dumb little wizard adventure books, and I have a lot of fun doing it. And I think that matters. I like writing about actual issues of good and evil, and things that people care about, and how do you handle power responsibly, and those are also, I think, questions that matter, and that occasionally people enjoy, kind of grappling with. I think that Buffy the Vampire Slayer was going off the air, and there were a lot of sad Buffy fans. I think James Marsters, Buzzy Multimedia originally got James Marsters to read the audiobooks.
They're really good.
And at this point, James Marsters is the most highly paid actor in Hollywood, which is a big deal. He's making more than Captain America and so on. I know, right? It seems kind of unreasonable that he would be doing that, but he is. I mean, he's been very successful at managing the business end of his career. And since he reads the books, I mean that drew in a huge pile of Buffy fans, a huge pile of James Marsters fans. I mean, it's been a combination of factors, and a big part of it is I like making sure that if you pick up one of my books and read it, that you get your money's worth from the story.
Yeah.
You'll actually be entertained for the duration of that time. And not everybody will be, because the world is a big place, and there's lots of different kinds of things that make that entertain people. But if you're the kind of nerd that I am, that's been into gaming and comic books and
I think that's some of the stuff for me, at least. It's the character progression and the consequences. It's not like every book isn't just a let's solve this crime and go have McDonald's afterwards. It's actually things happen.
Well, in the first place, they have burger. They would have Burger
King.
Yeah,
Burger King, of course.
But yeah, the world has to grow. The people have to grow. It has to go somewhere. I mean, that's when you've got a story that really matters. When Butters decides to go out that front door onto the lawn against people that will kill him because they have killed people before. That gets to be a moment of real heroism where Butters gets to say, I'm going to lay down my life for my friends.
Changes when I read that.
That's a big deal. And then when Butters gets the sword of faith and everything changes, that also that matters. And that can happen because those swords get involved with things and change things all the time. That was particularly fun to write. I've been waiting to write that for about 9 years.
Oh, really?
So
nice.
That was one of those scenes I'd been building up to for a while. So
you have a lot of things like that you're just waiting to get out. Yeah.
Good. I planned this enormous story, 20 books long. I did not know it was going to be impossible to sell that to any editor, anywhere. And because I did not know it would be impossible, I guess I did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've been planning this big story. So there's all these events that are coming up that I've been looking forward to writing for a long time. There's all these different bits and pieces. I love it when people will contact me and go, oh, wait a minute, I just now noticed this line in this book 3 books ago where Butters, where the Einarjar had asked Butters to come practice with him, and he says, I'll be there as soon as I have a functioning lightsaber. And now maybe I can write the scene where Butters shows up to practice and just
but Polka will never die. Do you have more do you have a lot of Easter eggs for the observant and nerdy people out there?
Probably. A lot of times I don't even realize I'm putting them in there until after I'm done putting them in. And then I go, ooh, I just referenced Firefly there, like that, and or whatever. But I love me my nerd culture. I love me I love me my Spider-Man movies. I saw Avengers 3 times opening weekend, because I am. But that's kind of who I am, and I just enjoy the hell out of making references. Those are just the funnest things. I think I watched too much Dennis Miller when I grew up. Dennis Miller was a comedian who makes tons of references to American culture, and I loved his humor and the way he would structure it. So, I've had a good time doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Talking about the things that I know, my tribe likes to talk about and hear about. I mean, humans are very much, we're tribal creatures, and the nerd tribe is an awesome tribe to belong to, and I like writing for them.
I think we are quite happy to have you speaking on behalf of all nerds suddenly, obviously. We also, in our first podcast, we had these 15 questions where the first 10 questions are from the Proust questionnaire from Inside Actor Studio. And then we have also made 5 nerd questions that I would like to present to you. First one, quite simple. What's your favorite word?
Oh, my favorite word. I think I've used obstreperous several times during this interview already. Which is a word that means obstinate and wise ass and stubborn, all in the same word, and which I enjoy very much. Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite words in the English language. As far as the utility of words goes, the swear word "fuck" is the most broadly applicable word in the English language. You can just use it in you can use it for every portion of the language and every part of the sentence if you need to. And sometimes it's not something that I like to say a lot. Or like to write a lot, but there's times where there's just no substitute for it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, you gotta. There are people who are against coarse language completely, and who say that coarse language is lack of imagination. It's like no, but you just have to apply the coarse language for the things it was meant for.
Yeah.
And when it's when it's serious, because there are times when there's just no substitute for it in terms of actually expressing human emotion.
Your least favorite word then?
Least favorite word, government, probably would be one of my least favorite words. Proper would be another least favorite word.
Proper government.
Yeah, it's well, there's just too much. There's just too much of it these days in many senses. Yeah. I've lived in a county where they actually had people who worked for the government who drove around and make sure that you hadn't built any. This was out in the country. Who made sure that you hadn't built any additional structures on your property. That would make sure that you hadn't built a lean-to off the side of your barn as a rain shelter for your horses. And if you had, then they would come charge you X amount of dollars a day until, because you hadn't gotten the proper, the proper paperwork done and gotten the proper permits and so on. And it's like, really, people, can we just leave each other alone a little bit more, and maybe that would work out a little bit better.
Is the White Council kind of your government?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
and absolutely. They're the image of too much authority and paralytic authority and badly applied authority. I mean, they can occasionally get things done, and they do occasionally serve a useful purpose. And some of the things they do are critical, and that's why they can stay around, is because they do have a few critical functions. But mostly they just interfere with people and get in the way. So, yeah, I mean, the White Council has long been my example of good intentions run amok. They were meant to be something that was. They generally meant to be something that was good and positive and a force for protection and enlightenment. But instead, they kind of wind up being a bunch of thugs who end up killing a bunch of kids because they're badly playing catch up because they can't keep pace with the world that is accelerated around them.
What turns you on?
Nerdy girls. I'm dating a girl right now who we sat down to play D&D, and she started trying to power game me, and started trying to argue. It's like, no, well, I'm playing a Medusa character. She's got to have at least 30 or 40 snakes on her head, and they should all get an attack. It's like, no, you get one. You are so hot right now. my reaction to that.
Okay, what do you hate? Except for proper government.
Ideological intolerance, regardless of which side of the spectrum it comes from. And I don't know the way it is in Norway. In the U.S., we've got a left side and a right side, and then everybody fights. And I think that most people in the world are pretty reasonable people. Most people who are even off on one side of the spectrum or the other are pretty reasonable people, but there's generally this small crew of lunatics on either end. And sometimes you've got, and sometimes I just got to wonder if they're not going to ruin it for everybody else. If the people who are kind of in the middle don't start going, guys, we got to start treating each other a little bit more like human beings and displaying a little bit more respect for each other and so on.
Yeah, fucking Black Council.
Yeah, exactly. Those guys, and those are the guys that are on the other end. The Black Council is a force of the White Council is this force of restraint and keeping things buttoned down and under control, and the Black Council is much more along the lines of, well, if you've got the power, you should use it any way you want to. You've got the power. That's what it's for.
Yeah.
And they're and they've caused all kinds of havoc that even that even Dresden hasn't realized yet. But and still more bad stuff that's coming in the future. I'm sorry.
It's good. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
The thing is I'm essentially a supervillain who has channeled all of his wrath into taking it out on imaginary people. So
Good.
basically, I just torture all these imaginary people for a living.
Yeah.
Now people always ask me, why do you torture Harry Dresden so much? And why do you like to torture Harry Dresden? And the answer is, well, really, I don't like to torture Harry Dresden. I like to torture all of you. It's just that Harry Dresden's the only way I can get to you guys. So basically, you got to understand that I'm essentially a supervillain. That's my job, and my job is to figure out a story and to think to myself, how do I cause the maximum pain for everyone involved in this story? How do I make sure that everybody, this not enough that Dresden's going to get defeated here. How do I make sure he's defeated and humiliated along the way? Because it's not just enough for him to lose. He is the Charlie Brown of urban fantasy, and he needs to lose and sort of finish off the frame in that Charlie Brown head bowed forward, pose of banging his head on a rock. Because that's the life that I've chosen for him.
Yeah, absolutely. We are. I don't want to say we are also evil overlords, but at least evil minions.
No. If you're telling stories and you're LARPing, that is one of the things you figure is, how am I going to make these people miserable? How am I really going to get these? How am I really going to throw these characters into the fire and make sure that they have a good? Because that's what they want.
Yeah. We on the last LARP in the triology, we kind of made this one of our friends. We placed her as a player and said she was going to be a player, and she had all these relations and was the girlfriend of one of the other players and blah blah blah. And then we killed her and skinned her the first day.
Oh my God, that's awful! Well done.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it is hideous to plan such things. That is just, wow, that's evil. I like it.
Thank you.
That is awesome.
What's your favorite sound?
It's probably going to be one of those background noises that happens during League of Legends when you murder somebody else in League of Legends. I play a little bit too much League of Legends, actually, and lately I've finally been playing ranked, and so I've got my official League of Legends ranking now. When you kill somebody in League of Legends, they've got an announcer in the background who's going, you have killed an enemy. It's like, oh my God, this feels so good. Double kill, triple kill, yes. Give me that.
And then what kind of sound do you hate then?
You have been killed.
Yeah.
You get that little, you get to view, you get everything in black and white.
Yeah.
Although that's not the sound I hate most. The sound I hate most is that alarm clock noise. My phone plays this happy little noise to wake me up in the morning, and generally speaking, I don't want the phone to wake me up in the morning, but I need to wake up in time because I go to bed so late. I need to wake up in time to be able to take care of business things, before the close of business day. Because otherwise, I'll just sleep until I'll sleep until sundown if I don't manage my sleeping. So, but my phone plays this happy little sound, and I hate that thing. And it just plays it louder and louder until I get up and walk across the room and make it stop.
Yeah.
Nice.
My poor dog, he's just like, dude, Jim, get up, the phone, make the phone stop. And then he'll be like, come back to bed. And I'm like, no, we have to get up now. He'll be like, oh man. Okay, we'll get up. Because he's a soldier. He's responsible. He's a responsible human being. I'm not so much anymore, so.
Yeah, we kind of the next question is your favorite curse word, and we kind of solved that earlier with fuck.
Already hit that.
Yeah. If you were to have another profession than writer, what would that be? And also, what would you like it to be?
I was working IT. I was working as a technical support at a local internet provider for years, and I was the guy who they would turn the net over to from 10 p.m. at night to 6 a.m. in the morning. And I was good at that job, and people would call in and I would figure out their problem and help them because, I was a nerd who, if there was a problem keeping me from between the internet and my video games, I would figure it out. And so I had great empathy for people who would call in and they couldn't get on the internet. It's like, all right, I will help you. I will fix it. So,
let's get this porn.
yeah, I would exactly. I would assume it was video games, but I mean, I would get them set up, and it was a great job because right around midnight, usually I stopped getting calls, and so from midnight to 6 in the morning, I would write books. I would write books and I would play video games, and that was kind of how I spent my time for a couple of years, and it was a great company with a really good boss. I had a boss that offered to fight a guy for me. That was this guy that was on the phone that was really upset with me. My boss came walking in at about 6 in the morning, and my boss was former military, and he was former Air Force intelligence, and he spoke 7 or 8 different languages, and was about 6'2" and real and like football player big, and American football player big. And he was in his late 40s and was still playing basketball for fun with college age guys who worked at the business. And he walked in one morning and this guy was just screaming at me on the phone. I'd been working with him for several hours, and he was beyond help. He'd destroyed his operating system, was going to have to reinstall it. And this guy was he was just screaming the foulest things at me, and I was getting ready to go home, so it didn't really matter to me. I didn't take that kind of thing personally, but the boss is like, "Are you okay there, Jim?" And I'm like, "Yeah, fine. I'll handle this. Don't worry. We'll get him set up, and I'll go home after we're done." And the guy screaming some more, and then my boss was like, "No, you better let me talk to him." And he picks him up and so, "Yeah, I'm his boss. Can I help you, sir?" And no, actually, he's one of our better techs. And in fact, I would say that if he can't help you, probably no one can. "No, you're welcome to come down here and talk to me about it, sir." "No, you come on right on down. Here's the address. I'll be waiting for you outside the building. I'm the 6'4" blonde guy with a crew cut that will be waiting for you." And they just sort of hung up the phone on him. I said, "Did you just offer to fight a guy for me?" He's like, "I don't think it'll come to a fight. It never comes to a fight." And I'm like, "Okay, that was awesome."
Nice.
But he was a great boss, and that was a great job. I would be happy to go back to that place if it still existed. That would be cool.
What games did you play?
Lots of EverQuest. Lots of EverQuest. Lots of Tribes. Tribes was one of the original multiplayer shooters.
Yeah, I played that.
And I mean, it had jetpacks and nukes and everything. It was awesome. So.
Yeah.
What kind of profession would you not like to have then?
Anything where I wear a tie. I swear to God, that's 90% of the reason I decided to be a writer, was so that I wouldn't have to wear a tie anywhere. I don't do well in business clothes. I kind of like having long hair too, and that's something that's kind of frowned upon in proper society. Having long hair.
Yeah, I used to have long hair until reality set in, and then my wife said, "You know that you have grown past your hair, because your hair's been staying in the same place, and I think you've grown for like a couple of centimeters." So then it was time.
Yeah.
But
well, actually, about 3 years ago, I went with the completely shaved my head bald because I was LARPing, and I was playing my necromancer at a formal. They were doing a formal event, And you can't have a necromancer show up at a formal event not bald. It just doesn't work.
That'd be silly.
Of course.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd actually shaved it for the full-on Uncle Fester, and I showed up in my complete necromancer outfit with the bone mail armor and everything. I had the staff that I had worked the LEDs into the end that would glow and that I could beat people with as well. So I could have my wizard staff, and I had I had the sword that I had finally figured out how to build a boffer sword that illuminated like a lightsaber, because my character had a magic sword that he carried around with him. That didn't do anything except look cool for the most part.
That's enough.
Yeah. If it looks good, really, that's really what else is it about?
Yeah.
Plus 10 points.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got to go to that, and what I found was that going with the full-on shaved bald like that, and if you've got a hood to go with it, it gives you maximum dramatic hood all the time, because you've got like Velcro to hold the hood in exactly the right place. So
I know.
a little bit of wind, the hood will still stay on your head and will still look awesome, and you look like something out of the what's the local the assassin game that's been out several times
Assassin's
lately.
Creed.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed. You look so Assassin's Creedy with the bald head and the hood.
That's why all the bad guys
It was
are bald.
awesome. It was a formal dance, and I'm there, and because it's lots of nerds, there's very few people who are actually dancing with like girls who are actually dressed up for the dance. So it's like me and my buddy who were he's another older guy, were like, we might as well dance with girls. And so we would get to dance with people, and at one point one of them complimented me, was like, out of character, I'm not sure if you're a Jedi Knight or Uncle Fester, and from the Addams family, and I'm like, thank you very much. That is exactly the vibe I was going for. You can't quite be sure.
Nice.
But yeah, I had a great deal of fun doing that, and it was on my bucket list of things to do, was to get the full-on Charles Xavier and try that out and see how that went.
If heaven exists, what would you like God to say when and if you get there?
When's the next book?
Okay. You have 3 buttons in front of you. If you press the one, you get $100,000. If you press the button number 2, you have a 50-50 of getting $0 or $1 million. If you press the last one, you have a 25% of getting $10 million and 75% of getting nothing. Which do you press?
Oh, button 3. Good. Because 100, I could write another book if I could try and force another book into a year if I wanted to do that. And a million would be cool, but there'd be so much taxes on it, it'd be hard to do anything fun with it. But 10 million, it's like they take half of that, and you still got $5 million left to do things with.
Yeah.
And if it didn't work, that's okay, because I live ridiculously anyway. I buy shirts and pants from Walmart, and I drive a very modest car. At this point, I could buy the kind of car I've wanted, but I drive a very modest car because it just doesn't matter to me. Mostly, I just want to push the button, the pedal, and have the car roll places, because I need it to go places. And the only thing that I really spend a lot of money on is my gaming computer. And my gaming computer's like a Ferrari. It's awesome.
Do you by any chance drive a Blue Beetle?
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
No, I don't, but I do drive a blue Honda CR-V, which is the most reliable car in Consumer Reports.
Cool.
It was a car that I sure was going to drive and not going to break down. It's got good resale value. It's like, when did I turn into a grown-up? How did that happen?
Well,
What's your favorite movie or TV show, and why?
Of all time, probably Babylon 5. Babylon 5 was a television show, was a science fiction show that was on in the 90s. Babylon 5 took the long-term view, especially for a TV show. It did not show you everything at once that it was doing. I mean, you didn't realize until you were most of the way through the second season of Babylon 5 that you're not watching Star Wars, you're watching Lord of the Rings in space. And that's what the story was. And they were very good about dropping things out, planting seeds early in the story that didn't come out until much later. And the things that the characters did felt like they had this huge effect on the story and the universe that was around them, and those were all things that I wanted to take and use in the Dresden Files. That show is infinitely fascinating, and I'll still go back and watch it. It's still got things to say about the nature of about human nature, about society, about government, about the abuse of power that are just as viable now as they were in the 90s. And there's not a lot of shows that can make statements like that. And plus, I just enjoyed the hell of it. It's still, I mean, a lot of the humor still holds up very well after a long time. The drama still holds up very well after a long time. It's a very good show.
Yeah, I had it on VHS actually, so I don't know where it went, but I had it on VHS.
Yes. I had it on VHS as well, but I had recorded it myself on TV as each episode came on, like to the point where I would like stop it so that there were no commercials, and then start it again as soon as the show started again, and have like 8 episodes on each tape, and then I would put those tapes in and play them in the background when I was writing Dresden Files. I mean, the first several books of the Dresden Files were written with Babylon 5 in the background, so I wanted to be able to write stories like that.
Cool. Would you rather be a pirate or a ninja, and why?
Pirate, because pirates get more girls. Plus, if you're a pirate, you're going to get to have lots of people around you. That's the inverse pirate ninja ratio power scaling. The more ninjas there are, the weaker you are. The more pirates there are, the mightier you are. Because if you've got a zillion pirates around, then every pirate is a force of nature. And but ninjas are only awesome if you've got one ninja, because then he's unstoppable.
What kind of superpower would you have then? And why?
I would have the multiple man's power. I would have a quality of life superpower, so that I could break it up into. I think I would need about 10 of me, and one of them could eat really well, and one of them could work. One of them could go to the gym and run errands, and then the other 7 of me could be like playing video games and watching TV and arguing about nerd things. And I think it would need to be in about that ratio. But that's a quality of life superpower. That's a superpower that lets you have much more life than you would have otherwise. And that's it doesn't make you. It's not really a super awesome combat power, really. I mean, unless I guess you do 11 and one guy goes to become Captain America basically. But as far as just making your life better, that's the superpower that makes your life better. That's the one I want.
But that's actually like 3 times 3D Man, if you remember 3D Man. He had the strength of 3 guys, and he was as agile as 3 guys. I don't know how that happens, but still.
Me neither. You strap 3 guys together and see how agile they are, I guess.
Okay, 3 things you would bring to a zombie apocalypse.
Zombie apocalypse would be my dog, because dog would be handy in the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Let me think. Zombie apocalypse. I think I would need my repeating rifle. It's heavy, but I trust it, and it'll work through absolutely anything. That's one of those guns that just doesn't stop working. I like that. Let me think. And I would go to the basement and get my face protector that I've got downstairs for when I'm using power tools to make boffer weapons, to make sure I don't get fiberglass splinters in my face. So I'd have to bring that to keep the zombie spray off of me.
Nice. Your favorite current computer game?
Right now, I'm playing League of Legends and Battlefield 4.
Cool. Do you have anything?
I don't think so.
I have one question, because I'm a part of a podcast about LARPing, and the nenext episode is about fantasy LARP.
Okay.
And one of our co-hosts, her opinion is that fantasy LARP kind of nerdifies the reputation of other kind of LARP. because you've seen the YouTube videos where you've lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, and since that is the kind of common perception of LARPing, like the reality dramas of the 1942 Second World War, the people who do stuff like that, they kind of get the baggage of the lightning bolts. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I love that phrasing, the baggage of the lightning bolts. Well, deal with it. I'm pretty sure the lightning bolts aren't going away. As far as and maybe that nerdy kid is an awfully nerdy kid, but he's part of the family. So as far as that goes, plus most of the people who say that have never had the satisfaction of throwing a lightning bolt at somebody, because come on, that's a load of fun.
Yeah. What?
I actually built a character that was based around nothing but throwing dinky little lightning bolts at people. He was a wizard, but he was an ogre, so he wasn't very bright. So he could only learn a few of the spells, and so he had just dozens and dozens of these little low-level spells, and would carry scrolls with the little low-level spells. And all these other people were throwing, comets and missiles and so on. And my guy was just lightning bolt, but he could do it all day long. All the other wizards could just be mighty for a second. He was there all day long just chucking these little things at people. That was so awesome. We ran into a villain, a great big bad guy who had the magical power to reflect anything above a certain level. It got bounced back at whoever threw it. So the giant mages jumped on him and were like, aha! And they annihilated themselves. And the only mage left standing was my guy. And who just kept doing this little dinky stuff at him over and over and over, just so annoying for 45 minutes while this big fight went on. That was awesome.